Welcome back to Design Notes, a show about creative work and what it teaches us. I'm your host, Liam. Each episode, I talk with people from unique creative fields to discover what inspires and unites us in our practice. I'm so excited to be coming back to Design Notes with an episode from this special series of 3 interviews recorded remotely with the winners of the 2020 Material Design Awards, where we explore exactly what goes into creating an award-winning app with material. Moooi is an immersive catalog of design-forward lighting and furnishings which won the Material Design Award for theming. Moooi is named for a Dutch word meaning beauty, and it's easy to pick up on that energy on moooi.com, which is full of carefully curated typography, color, and imagery that creates a comprehensive and immersive theme. In our interview, I speak with designer Margot Gabel and developer Rémy Barthez about Mooi's approach to translating physical artifacts to digital experiences and the critical importance of building for everyone. Let's get started. All right, Margot, Rémy, welcome to Design Notes.
Hi, Liam. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, hi. It's a pleasure.
I think just to get started, if you each kind of want to introduce yourself.
Yes, cool. So, my name is Margot, as you just said, and I work at Build in Amsterdam for the past 5 years. And we've been working on Moooi for almost 2 years now. And I've been the lead designer on this project. And with me, we have Rémy as well, who's joining.
I'm working at Build as well for 4 years now, and I was the lead developer on the Moooi website.
Great. I think I'd like to first dig into a little bit of the history of Mooi's design, both as a project and also the role that material has come to play in that approach.
Yeah, so material design was always kind of the starting point of a lot of our other projects. So it's even from the wireframe phase, it's a very solid basis to work upon because it really saves sometimes to use this instead of just reinventing the wheel each time. So even as we start concepting for this new platform, we use material as the starting point and then start our theming process.
So I want to talk a little bit about that too, about Mooi's brand identity or aesthetic, because I think this is something that is always a challenge when you're building something new, is like translating the personality of a brand into an interface like this. So what are some of the main characteristics that are coming through in the site for Moooi, and how did you accomplish that?
Yeah, so Moooi means beautiful in Dutch with an extra O. And that's what they stand for. They call their philosophy said alive extraordinary. So they do a lot of very eccentric products and very original type of furniture, like wallpaper, lightnings, etc. So it was a bit tricky to have this very outspoken personality and on the other end, an interface that would highlight this without overtaking it. So we tried to strike a balance between this and like a luxury, bit more timeless approach and the very strong personality of the products. So maybe later on we can speak about a bit like the typography and how we approach the layout with theming.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue actually, because the Moooi site won the award this year for material theming. And to remind listeners, that award was about using consistent, expressive applications of the subsystems like color, shape, and type. So I want to talk about how you take all of those characteristics that you just described and translate them into these subsystems. And I also want to get into a little bit of the technical side as well, like what was it like implementing those things?
So actually the starting point for most of the graphic choices come from the catalogs of Moooi. So over the years, they did a lot of photography and print material around their collections. So we tried to actually translate these more print layouts to the web, so making them responsive and expressive. So a lot of the choices through the typography and the colors, they come actually from the physical world, from their magazines. The color scheme that you mentioned also is a bit toned down, so we can really highlight the products. Same with the typography. We have different typefaces for different usage, a very expressive one for headlines, while another, for example, Gilson is a bit more toned down for more functional type of components.
Speaking of the typography, something that I noticed was that both of those type families that you mentioned are really big families. And I think a lot of times when folks are looking at creating a type scale of their own for their own app or website or product, it can be a bit tough to, first of all, find those typefaces, which it sounds like we're coming from existing assets that Moooi has, but then kind of editing those down and finding the styles that work the best for the thing that they're building. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion. It was a pretty tough process. We actually tried many different typefaces, and a lot of accessibility consideration came into place as well, because some typefaces were not readable enough or they were too stylized. So we ended up using only 3 main families. Both headlines come from the magazines. So they have this editorial kind of look. And we use the material design type scale as a basis to be sure that it had good contrast hierarchy-wise. That's also something that goes back into the code. Maybe Rémy can add something.
We had a lot of work on the typography to make sure that everything is readable and it has the minimum size correct.
Yeah.
And it was a long period to even try multiple typography. And also, we want to limit the number of typography for a design choice, of course, but also a technical side for the platform to be performant.
Yeah, because loading a lot of typefaces just get very heavy. So we had to take this in consideration.
Yeah, true. Speaking of the technical side of things, the expressiveness in Moooi comes through not only in the color and type, but also the immersiveness of a lot of the imagery. And there are like segments of the site where there are multiple layers and things are animating and things like that. So I'm interested to hear, how do you conceive of something like that and then execute it in a technical sense?
Well, that's tricky to sum up. But yeah, the starting point is like this beautiful imagery and the beautiful product video they made. And we try to translate this into animation. So maybe on the homepage, you can see we have these floating elements that are randomly moving across the screen. So this is one of the things we tried. If you go to the Salon del Mobile experience, we have something even more immersive with like 3D spaces and interesting transitions.
Yeah, every part of this project was and still is a challenge, because we wanted to take all the really expressiveness and craziness of the products and even their media, their images, photos are really great. So we built everything from this, but in the same time we want a usable and clear website, and we don't want to just copy paste the catalog, the print catalog. So we want to use everything we can from the digital side. So we use like animation to bring some features and some immersive part of the website.
But so yeah, it goes through an animation, like we animate also even the typeface. But we wanted to add some surprising element also. Some of their products are quite fun to use. So if you go through the collection page, you can hover certain products and they will turn, or open a drawer. You can turn on lamps. We are currently working on adding a bit more sound, so it even becomes more playful. So yeah, all of this come into account to make it a bit more immersive, while still very functional.
Yeah, Margot came with a lot of ideas to use every type of content, like audio and video and etc. And for more the development part, it was iterative as well. So we built block by blocks, and we tried to keep something consistent and always accessible. But it took some time. So it's more like iterative and always coming back with the client to make sure that it's aligned with them, and also that they can use it. They can administrate the website and the content.
And still following material guidelines, like we use still as a starting point some of the components, and we made them in the Moooi style.
Yeah, the base guidelines of material design is really useful for animation and all this layering of content. And this was really the base of, I think, of the UI.
And speaking of components, I wanted to ask, are there many material components that are present in the site? Like, can you call out a few? Because I think Moooi is like a great example of like highly customized components.
Yeah.
And I want to know a little bit more about which ones you're using and like how you've changed them to make this super unique thing.
Yes, but I think the most recognizable one is just our menu button. It's actually based on a real thing. Like on the Moooi product, you have a little button that hides an NFC chip inside that you can scan with your phone to say that you're the owner, for example, or just had some extra information. And this is really your entry point to the world of Moooi. So we made it literally the menu button. So it's based on the action button from material design, the floating action button, sorry. And we made it really custom with an actual photography of the NFC chip. And you can move it around, like we wanted to make it accommodate left-hand users on mobile, for example. So you can just move it around so it doesn't overlap the content, or just to make it a bit more convenient for you. We have the chips that we used in different way. I know that material design used them for actions, but we wanted to use them for categories. So when you're on the collection page, you can click on them and go to lighting or like suspension lights. We also reuse them in the filters, so they are easy to recognize, and I quite like their very simple look. Like they were super easy to use as a bigger list. We use also different panels. So the filter panel is based on the side sheets from material design. We again customize it, like we put a search, we put a voice input, some accordions, and we really make it ours, so it doesn't really look like the original side sheet. And the last one I want to mention is the bottom sheet. So if you are on a detail page, you have this little widget that follows you when you scroll. And this is really your quick access to all the buying process and the specs, the dimension, the download. So everything more functional is in this widget, and all the rest is just immersive content. So we really like to use this from the material design as a super useful tool, like floating tool. Rémy, anything to add?
Yeah, what was it like from the technical side?
Yeah, I think we also used a lot of like the forms and even, small things like inputs, and material design did some job to really test them, how to use labels or placeholders. And we just reused all the learnings from this.
Yeah, we dive into you did a lot of user surveys around the forms. I remember Google before had forms with just a bottom line, and they tested it on a huge amount of users and found out that people just prefer boxes actually. So we used a bit this thinking to improve our own forms so they are as readable as possible without making them too minimalistic.
Yeah, I think it's a rare thing, maybe in our kind of space, that adding more visual information makes something more readable.
Yeah, maybe we are coming back from this phase where we wanted everything to be really minimalistic, and now we are thinking more of the user, and we are thinking more how to still make it look good but still like really make it useful for the user, which is the most important part.
Yeah, and with this project, we really had to make it double A or almost triple A according to the web accessibility guidelines. So we really had to think of, how is the website going to look if you have low vision, or if you can only use a keyboard, or if you have problem concentrating as well. So a lot of our choices were driven by design, but also by these constraints.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, because Moooi has an extremely sophisticated feature set for navigating the site in a more accessible way. And I think that's something that is unfortunately too rare to see. And it's something that I think we get a lot of questions about. Folks are looking for tips and techniques and ideas about how to improve the accessibility of their site. So if you could just talk a little bit about what those features are and where they came from.
Yeah, so actually how this project started was by a lawsuit. So Moooi got problems in the US because their website was inaccessible, and in the US it's illegal. So they had to make a new website that is fully accessible to match the American law. And we never had at Build in Amsterdam before made a fully accessible website. So that was very new for us. We had to really research into it and get advices from Accessibility Foundation as well. Because online you do have some advices, but they were mostly addressed to like government website or things that are maybe a bit more serious. And here we had a full e-commerce platform to build in an accessible way. So there was no really beautiful example to find to help us guiding the process. So we had to kind of start from scratch. And actually from this constraint, we built our concept as a strain. So my idea was to make it multisensorial, we called it, because when a disability is when you miss one or more sense. So we thought, okay, what if we could make the platform triggering more than one sense. Usually we rely on visual, but what if you can't rely on visual? So we try to find ways to make you feel, or maybe you can't touch through your screen, but maybe with video and with some interaction, we can help you having a feel of the product. So accessibility was the driving idea here, to make it a bit more multimodal. That's also another approach we had, where you can navigate with not only your mouse, but with the keyboard. So we had to look into how to make every link, every button, every focus states completely accessible through keyboard navigation. That was quite a challenge. Rémy, maybe you can add something to it.
Yeah, like you said, it was the first project where we really have this requirement of accessibility. And it was a challenge, but at the same time, it was really, really interesting. And when you look at the web content accessibility guidelines, it's a lot of like small things. So it's not so complicated, and it's really good for design or development to think about this at every step in a way. Once you learn them, you can reuse it, and you will not lose so many time. It was a bit of more work for us at the beginning. But when you think about accessibility, it's also, do you want to exclude people? And this is really not something you want to do. So to include everyone, all these guidelines are really useful, and they did a lot of work to include all type of people. So we follow them, and like you said, we used some human help, like with the Accessibility Foundation in Netherlands. And it's really, really helpful. You can have every tools you want to audit the website, and we use some of them. We use AXE tools. That's really, really good. But at the end, you need some human eye and human test. And just call the experts, and you have a lot of foundation, and even some people will help you. It's really helpful, and it's an ongoing process because we are always updating the website. So we will always look at the accessibility side. And the funny thing on this project is, like you said, the design concept was really going in the same way as the accessibility, to offer more ways to use the website, like keyboard, mouses. You can voice search thanks to the Google Chrome API. Access the website and use it the way you want, the way you can. And at the end, if we can reach more people, it's just better.
Yeah, and then again, on material design guidelines, like this last year, it has been improved. Like there's more about accessibility. So in terms of color contrast, on how you need to design every state, like hover, disable, clicked states, each one of them needs to be accessible color-wise, etc. So these were really helpful as well, on maybe on a smaller detail level, to use to help us in making our choices.
I'm going to throw you both a surprise question now.
Uh-oh.
Because part of my day job is being a design advocate, which means that I spend a lot of time talking to designers outside of Google about their work and how that work intersects with the work that we're doing at Google. So I'm curious what you both would like to see from material next.
Oh, that's a good one. So lately we've started to integrate augmented reality into the platform. So if you open the website on your phone, you can visualize some of the lamps directly into your living room. And we were using actually the native function of Google Chrome. But there is not, like, we were thinking, how is this accessible, or is it accessible even? And we couldn't find so much about it. So for me, that would be the next step. How can we make AR and maybe VR a bit more accessible, as these are things that we are going to use more and more in our next project. Rémy?
Yeah, we use AR on iOS and Android, and it's really nice now that it's native, but you feel like it's a bit young still. So yeah, it's missing a bit of guidelines and maybe some basic hints on how to use it the best. But what I like about the material design is it's not too opinionated. You can still theme it the way you want, and you can really use it as a base. But what you could add, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, it's really design oriented, like it makes sense. But it's always difficult to reach the bridge between designers and developers, and I don't know.
That's fair. That's the age-old question.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Well, thank you again, both of you, for joining me, and congratulations again on the award.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
From Google Design and the Material Design team, I want to take a moment to just thank all of the Material Design Award winners for sharing with me the details, challenges, and considerations behind each of their apps. It's so cool to see the great things that people are building with Material and to be able to bring that knowledge to our community. If you want to hear more about Material, follow @Material Design on Twitter, check out our new YouTube channel, and you can read more about the awards at material.io/blog. Make sure to check out the rest of the episodes in our special series with the Material Design Award winners, and stay tuned so you don't miss our next episode. You can subscribe to Design Notes on Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. For those who stuck around, like always, I want to say thanks for listening. And thanks for sticking with me through the hiatus, too. Goes without saying that things have been complicated over the past year, but making this show is something that I really love doing, and I'm so happy to have the space and the clarity to start recording again. Until next time.